The Wall-E and Cars theory. There is a strong theory that the entire Pixar universe is linked on a very long thread. Famously created by Jon Negroni, the theory focuses on the belief that every movie created by Pixar is somehow a result of the actions from a previous movie or happens in the same world as another, and Jon Negroni has a whole article on it. In line with this, Jon Negroni claims that the Cars universe is a product of the apocalypse from Wall-E. In Wall-E, the Earth is abandoned after it can no longer hold humans due to massive waste pollution. According to Jon Negroni, after the humans abandoned the Earth in the year 2100, Cars then came to life and began the Cars universe. There are a couple of arguments against Jon's theory, as there are no sites of the incinerators, the massive air pollution, or the deactivated Wall-E units in the Cars franchise. But if we really look at Wall-E, the world is never shown during this time, so we don't really know how badly the Earth was polluted. To further back this theory up, in Wall-E, the BNL company tried to bring humans back to Earth when it gets clean again. Even though the movie never mentions why, BNL fails at this attempt, but at the same time, we know of another clean energy company that fails in the Cars movies. Alanol. Alanol apparently claimed to bring clean energy that was going to revolutionize the way cars ran, but in reality, their company wanted to wipe out the universe with their dangerous fuel. It is very likely that both companies were working together, with one wanting to end cars and the other wanting to return humans back to Earth, which was occupied by cars. And what makes all of this even much more insane is the fact that BNL, which is short for by and large, and Alanol, or all in all, mean the same thing, which further cements the connection between Cars and Wall-E. The Toy Story theory. Another Pixar film that is linked with the famous Toy Story, where toys belonging to Andy Davis came to life whenever he was away from them. However, what if the cars from the Cars universe were also toys belonging to Andy, and all of the plots we see in their movies were actually stories he created while playing with them? This makes sense because we know Andy has a very creative mind and strong storytelling skills, which we get a glimpse of in the opening of Toy Story 3. Also, race cars are also very common with young boys, so it is very possible that Andy made all of their plots during his playtime. And to be honest, all of the racing and spy stories very much feel like stuff made up in the unrestricted mind of a child. But it gets darker. The Sally theory. In Cars, we meet Sally Carrera, the elegant 2002 Porsche 911 and lawyer that lived in Radiator Springs. However, Sally hadn't always been a resident of Radiator Springs, and her nature as a classy Porsche is a huge contrast to the life over there. She is originally from Los Angeles and used to be an attorney over there. Although she was doing very well at her job and was living a pretty exquisite life, she wasn't happy and left California. On her way, however, she broke down on Route 66 and ended up in Radiator Springs. Now, there are some people that believe that Sally planned to end it all when she left California. We know she was in a really dark place. She had a pretty life back home, but still wasn't happy, which is a common sign of depression, so it is quite possible that she wanted to keep driving until she couldn't anymore. Her journey ended at Radiator Springs after Mater found her broken down and towed her to the city. So what if he never did? The deeper you think about it, the more it becomes clear that Sally had absolutely given up on everything at that point in her life. Still on the dark theme of ending it all, what if I told you that we had a serial killer in Radiator Springs? The Mater theory. The Cars franchise is a perfect narration of a world where cars and other vehicles interact with themselves in the most human and alive way possible. This practically makes them people, and it is pretty interesting how we see them take numerous roles like real humans do. Besides the race cars, we see other professionals like cops, firefighters, and even more interestingly, junkyard owners like Mater. However, it is quite disturbing that Mater, a car, has piles and piles of car parts in his junkyard and home. I mean, this is the equivalent of a person having arms and legs in their home, which is very not okay. Because of this, there are a lot of people that believe that Mater is a serial killer and displays those car parts as some kind of sick trophy list. And to be honest, this theory is possible to an extent. Mater might be the sweetest guy in the movies, but we cannot escape the fact that he can be a little bit weirder than usual some of the time. It would be a huge plot twist if Mater was really a serial killer. But what is even more twisted is the plot of Cars 2. What if I told you Cars 2 never happened? The Cars 2 theory. In one of the trailers of Cars 3, we can hear Smokey speaking over the scene of McQueen crashing. Here, Smokey says, "You can't turn back the clock, but you can wind it up again." And many believe the Pixar writers weren't just talking about the clock in McQueen's career, but in the Cars movies as well. You see, the majority of fans believe Cars 2 is the worst film from the franchise, and probably in the history of Pixar. This hate is from the fact that there is not really any real racing that affects McQueen's development, and the plot is overridden by the Spies versus Lemon Gang war. So this has initiated the theory that Cars 3 was a reset for the franchise, and that in the scheme of things, Cars 2 never really happened. It is like Pixar scrapped everything in Cars 2 from existence, and in Cars 3, we don't get any callbacks to any of its events. At the same time, there's also a belief that Cars 2 was all made up in the movies as well. After Cars in 2008, Pixar started Mater Tall Tales, a spin-off where Mater tells stories about alternative made-up versions of his life, where he mostly plays as some sort of superhero or really weird and cool character. Now, Cars 2 was released in 2011, 3 years after the Mater Tall Tales series began, so it is very likely that the whole narration was another one of his tall tales extended as a whole movie. This theory is very much credible, as we see Mater play the role of a super secret spy that saves the world from the exploding fuel, which is pretty much a continuation of the stories from the spin-off series. Back to the universes, we have another theory of the true origin of Cars, the Transformers theory. The Cars movie franchise is basically about talking and sentient automobiles, and the closest movie that comes to mind when we think of talking vehicles with villains that want to take over the universe is the Transformers franchise. If you've seen Transformers, it would make a lot more sense that Cars is more like an animated version of what the world was long before the Transformers were sent to Earth. So what if Cars are just in the same universe as the Transformers before the war? Maybe the Autobots had a slower and more peaceful life, with lots of traveling and racing. I think this might be why some cars like Sarge have military-like personalities. The vehicles in the movie franchise are clearly a machine life form, and that is exactly what the machines in Transformers are referred to as. It isn't unbelievable that the planet where the Cars franchise takes place is Cybertron, thousands of years before the big fight between the Autobots and Decepticons. The society in Cars even shows a world similar to Cybertron's peaceful society, as seen in the flashback in one of the Transformers movies. Cars is a prequel to Transformers, and Lightning McQueen might just be a distant ancestor of Optimus Prime. As much as the Transformers theory makes sense, what if I told you Cars aren't from our world? The separate universe theory. In opposition to the Wall-E theory, where cars exist in a post-apocalyptic version of our universe, there is another theory that claims cars exist in a completely different dimension where humans do not exist. This world features technology and infrastructure made to fit the needs and abilities of cars, such as gas pumps, car washes, and even specialized tools. There's no trace of human infrastructure in view throughout the whole franchise. Even nature in Cars is designed for cars. The world in Cars is designed with cars in mind, and there's no changing things for humans. Despite being cars, they still have a culture and society that mirrors that of humans, with cities, jobs, and even different levels in society. It's more like Cars is one of the multiple universes from Rick and Morty that is set in an alternate universe where every character is a vehicle of various sorts, whether that be an automobile, an aircraft, a watercraft, or a locomotive. Now, there might be a lot of theories about where cars come from, but what if I told you they are just reincarnates? The personality of previous owner theory. In the Cars movie, all the vehicles have a very specific human-like personality. For example, Doc Hudson's old-school knowledge, Sarge's strict military personality, Luigi's Italian businessman energy, and even Lightning's attention-seeking attitude all feel too far specific to be random. Those personalities definitely didn't come from nowhere. The creative directors of the franchise, Jay Ward, said that, in his mind, the cars slowly became able to move and think on their own, and eventually overthrew humanity after realizing they didn't need people, which is why there are no people in the films. However, Ward suggests that remnants of the humans remain, explaining each car takes on the personality of the last person who drove it. This explains the variety of accents, mannerisms, and even ways of living and talking displayed by the vehicles during the movie franchise. Mater's humor could come from a small, rural farmer, antique cars from Radiator Spring like Doc Hudson. Lizzie and Flo act like they're from the older generation because their owners once lived there. They're living memorials of their owners' lives. Lightning's love for the spotlight might just be left over from a narcissistic human who couldn't walk past a mirror without looking at his reflection. Speaking of Lightning, have you ever wondered why his door never opens? The internal organ theory. In the Cars franchise, the automobiles are very much like the humans of their worlds. This is not only because they are conscious and speak various human languages, they have human body features. Their windshields are bases for their eyeballs, and we have seen other body parts like mouths, teeth, and tongues. Those cars weren't normal automobiles with empty insides. They were filled with flesh and internal organs. This explains perfectly why we never see the doors in Cars ever open. It also tells us why when a car is damaged, like when Lightning McQueen crashes in the third movie, they show signs of distress, such as being unable to move or exhibiting a pained expression. Their doors are always shut because their organs or machine parts that are important for life are in there. The creative director even said, "You'll never see the doors open because the brain and the eyes are in there. We don't want anything falling out of the side." Their repair shops might actually be hospitals. It's a little creepy to imagine Lightning with a liver or Mater with a stomach, but they're definitely in there, shut inside their engines. Imagine opening a car door and seeing ribs instead of seats. I know I'd freak out. The organized religion theory. If cars can think, feel, and form societies, they might have beliefs too. Even Lightning himself has thought a lot about destiny, whether a racer's fate is written from the start or if it's something you fight to change. And in the second movie, we see a Pope-mobile, and that provokes the thought of religion existing in their universe. The Pope-mobile shows that there is Catholicism in the movie franchise. That means there must be other religions too. Maybe a car Islam, car Buddhism, or car Hinduism. Was the Pope-mobile inherently Catholic or simply a chauffeur to the actual Pope? The movie franchise uses the term Chrysler in place of Christ, signifying the importance of the brand and its maker within their religion. In the second movie of the franchise, Mater mentions to Grem and Acer that his cousin Betsy got left at an altar while she was broken down. Altars are typically held at deeply religious churches, especially in Christian traditions. The existence of the great manufacturer in this world, along with Pope Pinion IV, a Catholic character, and the mention of the term Chrysler in the place of Christ implies Christianity exists in the Cars universe. Thanks for watching, but now that I have explained all the theories in Cars for you, you might want to know more about their villains too. Click here to check that one out and make sure to subscribe to my channel.